I wanted to chat just briefly about theory building case study. And you've done a lot of work on this, both applying these, but also methodologically developing methods for doing these sorts of things. And I think probably a lot of the people listening will be, well, I can only speak for myself, maybe, that I'm relatively, naive to these and how they work. So I'm wondering if you could just sort of give us sort of a 30,000-foot view of,
what theory building case studies is.
Yeah.
Well, I think of it as really just an application of normal science. That if you read the textbooks, the method textbooks, they'll say that what you do is you have a theory and you make observations and see if the observations fit the theory. That's science. If it fits, then your confidence is increased. If it doesn't fit, then your confidence is decreased. But they don't always say this, but in fact, it's also an opportunity to adjust the theory so that it does fit. And I don't think any part of this is novel, but I think it's important. It's important for psychologists just because we've spent so much time thinking of statistical hypothesis testing as being like the way, like that's what we do. Because it's a logic that can be used with qualitative research. And I think for doing psychotherapy, I've come to think this is like, I did statistical hypothesis testing for years. And so this is kind of a conversion that quite a while ago now, that for most of the things that we study and care about, we don't have statistically testable quantities of of observations on the same variable to do the test we want. And so, we can say, all right, we'll look under the lamppost and only study things that we can get lots of observations in order to do statistical tests on. I don't think that the scientific logic requires that. Our theories, psychoanalytic theory, cognitive theory, all the theories we have that are used clinically, to the extent that they're used clinically, they describe particular cases. You apply them in particular cases. All case study is doing is looking at cases and seeing if it fits the theory. And if it does, your confidence is increased. If it doesn't, then you change the theory so that it does, but keeping in mind that all the previous observations have to still fit. So you can't just change the theory any way you want. There's a little piece of logic in this that actually traces to, do you know who Donald Campbell is? Anyway, Donald Campbell, I don't know. He was a famous methodologist back when I was in graduate school. This was many, many years ago. And if you've ever heard the terms external and internal validity, does that sound vaguely familiar? Okay.
Yeah, of course. Okay. And then is this Cooking Campbell? Campbell of Cooking Campbell? Yes. Yeah.
That's the guy. Anyway, this is his logic. He was a statistician, among other things, and he spent a lot of pages saying mean things about N of one study. You can't conclude anything from them. And then later in his career, he wrote a paper called Degrees of Freedom in the Case Study, where he quoted all these mean things that he'd said and explicitly retracted them and said, well, maybe there is something to this after all. And I'm adding a little bit to his logic, but basically what he's saying is, if you have a theory that deals with many different aspects of a person, let's say, or of anything really, as you do, if you have a theory like the assimilation model is describing a lot of things. So if you did a case study, there's a lot of specifics in that case study. You can point to the voices, you can point to the experiences, you can point to the meaning bridges, so on and so on. It goes on a long time. And they're all doing these different things. And in a case study, you can make observations on all of those things, on lots of things, okay? So in a case study, then you can make a large number of theory-relevant observations. What he's arguing is that those many observations on different things is analogous to degrees of freedom in a statistical hypothesis testing study, so that rather than making, across many cases, making one observation on each case on a particular piece of the theory, instead you make many observations on different aspects of the theory in the same case. Okay, now neither one of those will prove the theory. I mean, one statistical hypothesis, one significance is nowhere close to a proof of a theory, but it gives you more confidence in the theory if it works. And likewise, one case that fits the theory very nicely gives you a little bit more confidence in the theory, but it's based on I mean, if you counted those observations, nobody, including me, has actually tried counting these things yet. But the principle is that if a rich description of the case fits the rich description of the theoretical the theoretical account, then that gives you justification for a little bit more confidence in the theory. And a lot of case studies, just like a lot of hypothesis testing studies, gives you more confidence. And it's always a matter of increments. What that's just saying is that qualitative. So there's a qualitative observation. What this is saying is that qualitative case studies gives an intellectually respectable way of doing science, and there's no reason to say that's I mean, there's lots of ways things can go wrong with either kind of study. It's not like it's not perfect, but at least it's on a very similar footing, and it's a respectable way to do real science. That's my point, and that's what I think. That's basic. That was sort of Campbell's point. He didn't give quite the emphasis to theory that I do, but I think that what this really rests on is having a theory that you stick to, and you have to use the same theory across a lot of cases, just like you have to use the same theory across a lot of statistical hypothesis testing.